You shouldn't do that to me, Cornelius. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our monthly meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Before we get started, we'd like to ask everyone who can to please stand and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I know, it was normally it's the cute acoustics. Well, before we go any further, we'd like to wish everybody a Happy New Year, and most importantly, congratulate the University of Georgia Bulldogs for another win. So. Thank
I'm a
you.
Buckeye fan. I got to say boo.
Everybody has a team. As long as you're on our team for today, that's what I need. Okay. I'll now call the meeting to order. If you haven't already, please silence your cell phones. For those of you who do not have a copy of the agenda or who are attending for the first time, we will concern ourselves with cases that are on consent. These are cases that have been reviewed by the board and by the professionals from the various departments of the county, and to which there's no known opposition at this time. We have discussed these in our work session. Certain staff comments and stipulations have been made, and we do not anticipate any further discussion needed for a decision. So as we go forward, our county zoning division manager, Mr. John Peterson, will read each case of the record, and then Mr. Peterson will ask you to raise your hand as your case is called to signify that you're present. If you are here in opposition to a case that is currently on consent, Mr. Peterson will ask you to identify yourself as that case is read into the record. We will then pull that case off of consent and hear it as part of our regular case agenda. We will then vote on all of the cases still on consent at one time. Once we've approved the cases on consent, we will move on to our regular case agenda. With that, are we ready, Mr. Peterson?
Yes. And before we get going, there are two cases on today's continued agenda. These cases will not be heard today. First case is variance case V8, Wellstar number 931. This case has been continued by the staff and will be heard on the February 15th, 2023 Board of Zoning Appeals hearing. Secondly, variance case V9, Wellstar. This case was continued by the staff until the February 15th, 2023 Board of Zoning Appeals hearing, so V9 will not be heard today. Madam Chairman and Board, there's one case on today's consent agenda which the staff needs to continue. There's some issues that have come up that need to be addressed before we can hear it. So the staff would ask the board to continue variance case V4, Diana Bickers, until your February hearing.
Do I have a motion to continue that case?
Yes, motion to continue, Madam Chair.
Second.
Second. All right. All right, I'll place your votes, please. Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, I'm ready to start the consent agenda. Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals variance hearing consent agenda for January 11th, 2023. First case on consent is variance case V120 of 2022. Thomas D. Murphy requests a variance to number 1, reduce the rear setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an approximately 300 square foot shade structure, required 35 feet to 12 feet. And number 2, allow an accessory structure to be located closer to the side street right-of-way line than the principal building in land lot 992 of the 17th district. The property is located on the south side of Winthrop Circle, east of Terra Mill Road. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to stormwater management comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case of V120? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V1, Stephen Carl Hanger requests a variance to allow an accessory structure, which is an 80 square foot shed to be located in front of the principal building in land lot 128 of the 1st District. The property is located on the southwest corner of Shalford Road and Mount Laurel Street. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to number 1. And number 1, Madam Chair and Board, I'm going to add 2 sentences to the end of this that's not on the printed agenda, but I'll read those in. Number 1, plant trees and shrubs within 180 days along Shalford Road in Mount Laurel to visually screen the shed from the streets. Number 2, county arborists to determine the size, variety, and location of the trees and shrubs. And number 3, all planted material to be maintained and replaced if it dies. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case of V1?
We have one.
We have one opposed, Madam Chair and Board, so we'll pull that off consent and have it in its regular order. Okay, variance case V2, Hannah Obidat requests a variance to number 1, reduce the front setback from required 45 feet to 29 feet for lot 2, which is existing. Number 2, reduced rear setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an approximately 300 square foot frame shed and awning, required 40 feet to 14 feet on lot 2, which is an existing condition. And number 3, allow parking and/or maneuvering of vehicles on a non-hardened and treated surface, which is an existing gravel driveway for lots 1, 1A, and 2 in land lot 423 of the 19th District. The property is located on the north side of Gus Robinson Road, east of Hannah Place. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to traffic comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V2?
No.
Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V3, Jesse Marinko requests a variance to allow an accessory use, which is a proposed pool and spa to be located closer to the side street right-of-way line than the principal building in land lot 402 of the 16th District. The property is located on the southwest corner of Shalford Road and North Hembrook Road. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to sewer comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V3?
No.
Let the record show no one opposed. Variance case V5, Eric Marquez and Tara Marquez request a variance to allow an accessory use, which is a proposed pool and spa to be located to the side of the principal building in land lots 101 and 128 of the 1st District. The property is located on the north side of Laurel Springs Drive, east of Mountain Trace. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V5?
No.
Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V7, AHP Owner LLC requests a variance to reduce the total number of required parking spaces from 371 to 210 in land lot 571, 582, and 583 of the 16th District. The property is located on the east side of Prattle Lane, north of Ernest Barrett Parkway. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, fire department comments. Number 2, site plan review comments. And number 3, lighting to be environmentally sensitive on the exterior of the building to reduce light onto residentially zoned property. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V7?
No.
Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V10, Yoon Jin Kim requests a variance to reduce the setback for a sign from required 62 feet from the center line of an arterial road right-of-way and 1 foot behind the public right-of-way to 45 feet in land lot 637 of the 16th District. The property is located on the west side of Kent Road, north of Westerly Way. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to number 1, sign be at least 46 feet from the center line of the road and at least 1 foot behind the right-of-way line. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V10?
No.
Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V12, Benjamin T. Burrock requests a variance to number 1, reduce the rear setback from required 30 feet to 25 feet, which is existing. And number 2, reduce the side setback from required 10 feet to 9 feet adjacent to the southern property line, which is existing in land lot 32 of the 1st District. The property is located at the western terminus of Blackthorn Way, west of Song Thrush Court. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case of V12?
No.
Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V14, Prasad Molakar requests a variance to number 1, reduce the rear setback from required 30 feet to 23 feet. Number 2, reduce the side setback from required 10 feet to 9 feet adjacent to the eastern property line, and that is existing. And number 3, reduce the front setback from required 35 feet to 29 feet, which is existing, in land lot 27 of the 1st District. The property is located at the northern terminus of Yorktown Drive, north of Shalford Road, and on the southeastern side of Childers Road. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V14?
No.
Let the record show there's no one opposed. And finally, variance case V15, Ronald Eustace requests a variance to allow a second electric meter on a residentially zoned property in land lots 388, 389 of the 19th District. The property is located on the east side of Villarica Road, north of Macklin Road. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommends approval, subject to number 1, no residential dwelling use or commercial use of the barn. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here.
One correction, it says 1187 Villarica Road, it should be 1877.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V15?
No.
Okay, let the record show that there's no one opposed. And that completes the consent agenda, Madam Chair and Board, with variance case V1 off the consent agenda and V4 being continued.
Madam Chair, I just had one question for staff, and that would be, I just made a note as I went through these a few days ago regarding the various conditions and stipulations the county had requested. On V7, I had noted that it was recommended by, I believe, traffic, that there be no parking on the right-of-way, and my inquiry was whether that was a condition here of the grant of the variance.
Can you repeat that question, Commissioner Boyne?
Certainly. My notes, and they may be incorrect, but my notes I had taken when I went through all these were that I believe traffic had recommended that there be no parking allowed on the public right-of-way relative to V7. And my only question was whether that's going to be a condition, or if not, why not?
That was not included as a condition because being out on Prado Lane, there is no room to park a car due to the curb and sidewalk being on the side of the road. So I didn't anticipate any problems with parking along that road.
Thank you.
Are you comfortable with that? So, is everybody, any questions from anybody else? I'm ready to entertain a motion to approve the consent.
I make a motion that we approve all of the items on the consent agenda as it stands.
Second.
Second. I have.
Just to clarify this, we're voting on it as revised by
Yes.
staff today?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, yep. All right. The motion passes 5-0, so we have approved all the items on the consent agenda. If you were on consent and you wish to leave now, please do so quietly. We are now ready to proceed with our regular case agenda. Our procedure is that Mr. Peterson will read a case into the record. The applicant and/or any representative of the applicant who wishes to speak will be asked to come forward to be sworn in. Likewise, anyone wishing to speak in opposition will be asked to come forward and be sworn in as well. Both the applicant and the opposition will have 10 minutes each to present their case. All testimony will be made from the podium at my right, where we have full AV capabilities. Testimony will be followed by questions from the board and may be directed to either party. Just a reminder, once all of the comments have been made and concluded, public hearing for that case will be closed, and there's no further comments from the parties unless we request you to come back and make any points that we have questions on. With that, Mr. Peterson, give it back to you.
Okay, moving into the continued or held cases to be heard. First one we're going to hear today is variance case V131 of 2022. Jonathan Lee Nelson requests a variance to reduce the setbacks for an accessory structure over 650 square feet for a proposed 800 square foot detached garage required 100 feet to 40 feet adjacent to the north and south property lines and 20 feet adjacent to the east property line. Number 2, allow an accessory structure to be located to the side of the principal building, which is a proposed 800 square foot detached garage. Number 3, reduce the side setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an approximately 288 square foot shed and awning, required 10 feet to 1 foot, which is existing. Number 4, reduce the front setback on Barber Drive from required 35 feet to 32 feet, which is existing. And number 5, allow a second electrical meter on a residential lot in land lot 236 of the 16th district. The property is located on the southeast corner of Barber Drive and Pineville Drive. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V131?
No.
Let the record show there's no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
Good afternoon. Please state your name.
Jonathan Nelson.
Go right ahead with your comments.
The only comments I have is, as far as I understood, I was going to be coming here and just answering some questions. I've talked to all my neighbors. No one around me has given any inkling that they would not like the structure built or anything like that.
Questions?
You were going to bring some pictures and talk about your addition and about your cars and so.
Some of the stuff you can see actually on the monitor as it is. I have some pictures on my phone, but I don't have a professional camera or anything like that.
The phone's fine.
The forms that I submitted, the last email with the actual, shows the plot of the house where it shows the part that's, I think it's called a carport, but it's been sectioned off, so it could be, I could do things in there. As you can see where the driveway's coming in to where the house is, I am going to be, as long as I can get my variance, I'm going to also be applying for a building permit to enclose that for my mother to live in. It is 18 by 19, so that's going to be adding on to living structure in the house. But all that kind of depends on where I can go from the variance.
Okay, how many vehicles do you have on your property, and that includes running and not running?
Including race cars, motorcycles, and four-wheelers?
Vehicles include four-wheelers and
Yes.
tagged vehicles.
Tagged vehicles, okay. That would be my mother's. I have a 93 Mustang, that's 2. My deceased brother's car that is in my mom and my name. And I have a Hyundai Accent. Those are the tagged vehicles that are on my property. I also have 2 race cars as
Okay,
well.
but
And my truck.
in the photo that we just had on the screen,
Mhm.
it showed a lot of other vehicles.
Yes.
So what's the plan for those?
If you could bring that back up, I can look and see which vehicles they are from the colors, and I can tell you which ones are gone.
Okay.
Okay, you can see my trailer, which is the brown there. Then you have my truck, which is just off of that, closer to the house. No, that's not, that's a tarp. The truck is right there. The red car on the front of that right there, that's a visiting car. The other red car right there, that is a Chevy Cavalier race car. That's one of the purposes I want to build in my garage, is so I can keep my race cars in there. The one that's beside that is a Mitsubishi Eclipse race car. They are both dirt track vehicles that I race at Dixie and Rome. The other side, we're on Barbara, which is all the way at the other side of the property. That is my mom's vehicle, closest to the road, right there. My 93 Mustang, which also will be kept in the garage. It's a collector's car. I've had it for over 20 years. And there is a Harley Davidson right there. The one beside it is the Hyundai Accent. The one behind that was the one that I said was my brother's car that is deceased. It's in mine and my mother's name. It's a Nissan. And that one, no, that is my truck. And the other blue, it looks like blue that was over by the trailer, that was a visiting car.
Okay, how many vehicles are you going to put in the garage if it's approved?
4 to 6.
For what?
4 to 6 is whatever I can fit in is what I'm going to fit in.
Okay,
That's the whole purpose of it, just to get it out of the elements and out. That's including race cars.
what is the corner, the, southwest corner? I can't make out exactly what's there in the photo.
There was a car right, the one straight back, that is gone. The other is, I think that is a pickup that has been pulled out.
Okay, so your garage will hold 4 vehicles.
4 vehicles permanently that I know of. If I can get 2 more in, then yes.
Okay, so based on your square footage, and Terry, if this doesn't work correctly, let me know. I believe you can have 3 vehicles in addition to the 4 in your garage.
Okay.
So is that correct, Terry? Terry, is that correct? Or,
He needs to come up.
okay. And that includes, you're adding the square footage for your mom, so 3 would be all that was allowed in addition to the 4 in the garage. So I guess my question is, do you have a plan for all these other vehicles, tagged or not, to go
Yes,
somewhere?
the silver Mitsubishi was wrecked at the last year. It's going to be, I'm taking it to the crusher, so that will not be there. The red Cavalier will be there. So, let's see, my mother's car, my deceased brother's car, then that would be my Mustang, which is in the garage. The Hyundai will stay out. The truck will go in. Harley will go in. Let's see, so that would be Mustang, truck, race car, so then my mother's car, and yeah, so that would be 3 vehicles that would be out.
And your solid on 3 would be outside, right?
Yes.
Okay. When do you expect to have the addition or the build-out for your mom's area to be done?
As soon as I get the variance to build the garage, I can go ahead and submit my application, because I have to pay for that. So I was waiting to see if I was going to get this. If I wasn't going to get this, then I was going to be moving out of county, pretty much, because my mother has to live with me now. So I have to make exceptions for her or move somewhere that is going to be comfortable.
Okay. Does any of the board have questions or comments?
I just have a question. So these other cars that will be remaining out, they be on, don't they have to be on a hardened surface?
The garage will be concreted. There will be concrete foundation for the garage.
Right, so the garage will be, I understand that, but
Yes.
then those will be, you have a certain number of cars you're going to be parking in the garage, which still doesn't take care of, I think you said 3 or 4 other cars that will be out,
Okay.
parked on a hardened surface?
Yes, where the silver car is down at the bottom right there, that is what is called asphalt millings. It's been laid and it's hardened, and then I also have the driveway.
So you'll continue to have some cars in the driveway and then also off to the side here?
Yes, 2 in the driveway and 1 there.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Brad? Good.
All right, with the understanding then that the maximum number of cars allowed to be parked outside of the garage is 3, I will make.
Is it 3 or is it 4? With
I
the
believe
added square footage when I add that?
Terry,
Yeah.
do you want to come speak to that?
Yeah, if you'd sit down for just
Okay.
a moment so we can
No
have
problem.
him speak. Thank you.
Hi.
Terry Martin with Cobb County Zoning. I believe with the additional square footage, he mentioned that he's going to remodel for his mother. I believe with that added in, that does allow for 4 vehicles. And under the R20, you're allowed up to 4 stored outside.
Okay, so with the finished addition build out for his mother's area, it would allow 4 vehicles in total to be parked outside, and then he could have 4 in the garage.
Right.
Or however many he can put in the garage.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Mr. Peterson? Is there a way, or Mr. Johnson, is there a way to put a note in there to have code enforcement come back out and check that he is meeting the number of car requirement once the projects have been finished?
Sure, we can definitely put a condition in there that code enforcement check the property, 30 days after the CO is issued on either the house addition or the detached garage addition.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with adding that?
All right, so my motion for V-131 is to approve the variance, and with the stipulation that based on the living area square footage after the addition build-out for his mom, that the square footage would allow for a total of 4 vehicles to be parked around the household, and then however many he can fit inside the garage. And then I'm fine with also asking code enforcement to do a follow-up once the CO is issued. And that's my motion.
Second that.
Okay. Yes.
Just to clarify the first thing that Commissioner Summer said, instead of saying around the house, can we just say parked on the property on a hardened treated surface?
Yes.
Yes,
Thank
I'm in agreement with that.
Okay. All right.
So I'm in my
We got it.
motion to reflect that change.
Ladies, do we have it? We good? Okay. All
I'll
right.
second it.
All right.
Is there a certain time?
30 days after CO.
Yeah.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Please place your votes. All right, motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next case, Mr. Peterson.
Okay, next case is variance case V-134 of 2022, Jonathan Tucker. Request a variance to reduce the side setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an existing 160 square foot chicken coop required 25 feet to 7 feet adjacent to the northern property line. Number 2, reduce the rear setbacks for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an existing 160 square foot chicken coop required 35 feet to 32 feet. Number 3, allow 8 chickens instead of 7 chickens on this lot. And number 4, reduce the setbacks for a detached garage over 650 square feet for an existing 1,300 square foot 2-story detached garage from 100 feet off any property line to 5 feet adjacent to the north property line and 65 feet off the west property line in land lot 1051 of the 16th district. The property is located on the east side of Fox Hollow Parkway, south of Robinson Road. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V134?
Yes, we have 3.
Let the record show there's 3 people here opposed. All those who wish to address the board and the applicant, please come forward to be sworn in.
Good afternoon. If you'll please state your names.
Jennifer Tucker.
Jonathan Tucker.
You can go ahead with your comments.
Well, I guess my first comment is I would like to be aware of who the opposition is, because at this point, the only opposition that we were alerted to was someone who had written a letter.
Just tell us your plans, if you
Well,
can.
The situation here is that the coop is already in existence and has been for multiple years. Before that, it was a playset, and before that, it was a shed when we purchased the property in the exact same location. Our children, when they were finished playing with this playset, we took it down, and that's where the coop was built, because it's in the shadow of the house and also because it's in a wooded area that keeps it from being completely viewable from every angle of the property, except for now the lot behind us has been clear cut by a builder in Indian Hills, so anyone can see pretty much everything that goes on at our house. I don't really know what else to say about the fact that it's been there. We've had no problems with any of our neighbors, and 12 months ago, new neighbors moved in, which is about the time the anonymous complaints began filing in, and we again spoke to all of our neighbors and were reassured that no one had a problem with it. We even spoke to the neighbors whose property line is in question. According to them, they love chickens, they want to have chickens of their own, and they have no problem with anything. So I understand that there's the burden of proof of a hardship when it comes to a variance. There seems to be some confusion in my mind about whether the variance we're asking for is a dimensional variance versus a use variance. Simply because a dimensional variance, you don't have to necessarily prove a hardship, but opposite of that, you would prove that it's unnecessarily burdensome to tear down an existing structure that's perfectly attractive and useful just to satisfy a 10-foot difference. So that's where we're at, although I do know that the neighbors that are in question, whose opinion should matter, they're not present today.
And this yours.
I don't have any questions. We can have the people in opposition come forward.
Mm-hmm. I'd also like to point out that on the screen previous, where it listed what the variance application was for, the verbiage is still incorrect regarding the property line and where the coop is currently setting. If you want to go, if someone could put that back up
Mr.
there.
Peterson, can you address that?
So the coop is not 7 feet off the property line?
It is, but we've been told that it had to be 25 feet off the property line.
That's
We're
correct.
getting, okay, so we get a
Oh,
lot
I
of
see what it is. There's
inconsistent
an old slide
information.
on the screen right here. That's an old slide. I read in the correct one, which is from 25 feet to 7 feet.
Right, okay, and we're under the impression that the coop is actually 10 feet off that side property line, so it's just, a matter of small amounts
Okay.
of material
And
distance.
just to add, if we were to go 25 feet off the property line, there is a 36-inch pipe coming from Indian Hills under our property to the creek that feeds the detention pond. So that would not really be,
Would be a great place to move it, because if there was ever an issue with the pipeline, the coop would, again, be an issue. Okay.
and then do we need to address the other, the garage as well right now before we hear the opposition, or?
No, if you want to adjust the garage because it's part of the variance, you're
Yeah.
more than welcome to do that.
Okay, so the garage, we received a variance, applied for, received a variance to go from a 10-foot setback to 5 feet, which was approved. In the original meeting,
Someone from the building coding office.
told us that we do not have to have a breezeway between the garage and the
Existing house.
existing house. So all the building plans were submitted without a breezeway to make it detached. Everything was approved, went through the whole process of building, everything was approved, received our CO, no issues, until there was a complaint, I guess, about the same,
About
from
the
the same
chickens.
neighbor. So the question about it being over 650 square feet, it is a 2-story structure. The bottom is a garage, which is not conditioned at all, no living space, just cars parked in there. And then above is under 650 square feet of area. So that's, all this was in the plans, everything was approved, so we don't really know what's going on with this one.
And I think there's some questions about when you, like if you consider your house square footage, you're not allowed to count garage space in that square footage. But now all of a sudden, what we thought was a 650 square foot footprint is now being charged as a 1,300 square foot. But it never came up during the building process with anybody in the county.
So the structure that you built, the garage that you built, is a 2-story garage. And so in the 2-story garage, you take both the parking of the cars and then the structure above to make it to be the 1,300 square feet.
Wouldn't that have
So-
been something that someone should have let us know, I guess?
That was a hearing date on 4/14/2021. You added that you were going to construct a garage addition, and that you would connect it with a breezeway. So as long as it was connected to the house, then that would be fine sitting at the 5 feet off the property line. But since it wasn't connected by the breezeway, it now is a standalone structure, and therefore that has to be 100 feet off the property line.
Correct.
So that is something that, that in this hearing, if the rest of the board agrees, it is something of what we would call a cleanup variance to allow this structure to exist.
Okay.
And
Well, just to be
what we're
clear,
doing- But again, the structure has been built.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't meet the code. The variance is going to allow the structure to exist as it is.
Okay.
And we're just making it, so that is on paper, that you are allowed for this structure to be 5 feet from the property line, which hasn't ever been addressed in the variance that was on 14/2021, I believe.
Right.
So it's just going to be, it's just a cleanup, that this structure,
okay.
and this is what you can have. So that'll be something that I would put in a motion.
Okay.
So-
We would just like to point out that that was not done nefariously. We were told initially that we may have to have the breezeway, and that we should be willing to do that. That's why it was on the application. But that very first person, and we don't remember who it was from Cobb County that came out, looked at the property, looked at the plans, and he said that we did not need the breezeway. That's why it's not there. So,
Okay. Do you have any other comments? Because we'll ask the opposition to speak. But
please.
thank you.
Thank you.
Opposition.
Good afternoon. Please state your name and your address.
My name is Jill Flam. I am presenting East Cobb Civic Association's recommendation for V134. And I apologize, our recommendation that we sent to you all did not contain all the additional variances because we did not realize there were some additional changes. I will be addressing those from the DS. Cobb County received a complaint for the existing coop and chickens, as we understand it. And then additional variances were added for the distance from the coop is from the side setback as well as the garage. Regarding the location of the chicken coop, ECCA cannot find a hardship dealing with the shape or the topography of the property that would requires it to be located within 7 feet of a 25-foot setback. The neighboring subdivision of Indian Hills, they adjoin this property, has also sent you a letter, that's Indian Hills Civic Association, that they are opposed to this variance application. So I would like to then address these individual variances. First off, East Cobb Civic Association will not be making a recommendation on the number of chickens. In addition, ECCA will not be making a recommendation on the garage variance that is required. With regarding the setback, the change in setback from 25 feet to 7 feet, ECCA is recommending denial of that portion of the application. We also recommend that a time frame be given to the applicant to have the coop moved into compliance with the county code. And I think that completes our recommendations. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me back up. Thank you so much.
We have now closed the public hearing on
Was
this.
there another gentleman?
Was there someone else?
Was there another person in opposition?
Oh,
Not in opposition, in support, if I may.
well, if you... Yeah, come on up.
Is this still running? You still having time running?
Yeah. He's got 7 minutes. This is, they're down to 2 minutes and he's got, now we're done. Related to it.
Good afternoon. My name is Doug Tabling. And very quickly, I'm a neighbor of the Tuckers. I don't live in a property that's adjoining theirs, but very nearby, just around the corner. And we're active in the neighborhood and in the community association. And I think it's worth noting that to increase the setback on the coop from the 7 to the 25 feet would take it out into an area that would make it, frankly, much more conspicuous to both the neighbors and any passersby than it would where it currently sits in a natural area where the trees and the vegetation it blends into that area. And for this particular structure, you know, it seems to me that the additional distance, although it's whether it's small or not, probably depends on your perspective, but the materiality of it would be to bring it out into a place that, quite frankly, would probably be, in my view, perhaps more problematic than where it currently exists and has existed for many years. So I wanted to add that point, and just to suggest that, you know, that the Tuckers are not alone in being, you know, entirely self-interested in keeping this where it is. I think there is value in granting the variance, and that's all I'd like to add unless you have a question.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Are you ready with your motion? Do you have any more questions?
No, I don't have any more questions at this time. Mr. Peterson or Mr. Martin, do you have the application in which one applies for chickens and what is on that application when you apply for chickens?
Yes, we do have an application to have backyard chickens, and it's a use by right as long as you can meet a few things that are required in code. And some of those things include 1 chicken per 5,000 square feet, One of those things include the coop setback in size and location. And there's a few other things, no roosters, just hens only, and things like that. So when they get that application, they fill it out and they sign that they agree to all those things.
And then with the location of the coop, is it stated on that application that it's 25 feet from any property lines?
On their application or just the blank application?
The blank application?
On a blank application, it does state it has to be 25 feet off the property line.
It does, okay. Thank you. There was another letter that was sent to all of us with regards to the opposition. And this is the neighbor that is directly affected by having the coop being 5 feet from the property line. So when I look at variances and how it affects the area, but most importantly is it going to affect any adjoining neighbors? And in this application, or in this letter of opposition, he believes that the coop, if it was the 25 feet from the property line, would allow him to utilize his property in a better way, and that he does not like having the coop that's right along his fence line. That there was a signature page that was passed around, and he stated that his wife wasn't clearly understanding what she was signing for when she put support in. So at this time, when he sent this opposition letter a month ago, he said that both of them are not in support. So because of that, I guess I have just some questions. So
Do you want someone to come back?
So if Jennifer and Jonathan want to come back? So, I went out to look at your property, and I understood, how it came about from being a playhouse to what it currently is today. You did get a number of code enforcement came out because there was an issue that the chickens weren't in a fenced area, and so they were sort of what we call free-range chickens, which is not allowable. You did fill out an application, though, which is what is permittable by Cobb County in order to have chickens. You did fill out one, so it was very clear on that application that your coop had to be 25 feet from the property line. And you and I had a discussion that it would be up to this board, but that if the opposition was, if there was no opposition to where this, by the homeowner that is directly affected by this, we would have sort of another discussion. But I do feel that this is very close to the property line. It doesn't meet the application for chickens that Cobb County has, and I do want to discuss one thing that the person that came up to support this. This coop is behind your house, correct? So moving it 25 feet is still going to be behind your house.
It will be behind the house, but in a completely open and exposed area.
Open
Yes,
and
ma'am.
exposed.
And on top of the,
From the houses behind as well.
to everybody. I mean, you'll be, especially now that they clear cut, behind us, it's literally going to be.
It's open, it's totally exposed.
It's going to be more noticeable to the actual neighbors who sent you that, and to everybody else who, it just is. There's people that can walk down that side driveway, next to the lake, and they can't even see the chicken coop currently. They will be able to see it now because we will have to tear down vegetation.
But the coop is going to be 25 feet, will be behind your house.
It's
from
behind
the
our house
front of your-
now. Yes, ma'am. It will always be behind our house.
Okay.
I would actually like to point out, just for the rest of the board members, when we initially got the most recent complaint about the chicken coop and specifically the property line, we spoke directly with the next door neighbors who have now supposedly, or have sent in the letter multiple times, at least 7 times, to their face, and they said they had no problem with it. So I just want to apologize to you, because had they been honest with us 10 months ago and had to, and entered into a conversation, this variance application would not be here, because we would have done what we needed to do as neighbors to make them happy. And I understand he has the right to say that something he disagrees with is keeping him from enjoying his property. They don't come outside ever. They've been there for a year. We may have seen them outside a total of 5 times in the backyard. They have not pulled one weed, picked up a stick. So that line of reasoning is a little far-fetched as far as we're concerned. But then secondly, just to point out, just for the record, there is something that I'm sure y'all are familiar with, which is coming to a nuisance. That coop was in existence. It was sitting right where it is. Nobody was trying to hide it when they bought the property. So we are just kind of stricken by the fact that they're allowed to move in and then start complaining anonymously. But I just wanted to give a little bit of explanation. And yes, like I told you, we'll do whatever we need to do to become compliant.
So in your statement, it's coming to a nuisance. Well, the nuisance is illegally placed. So if it's coming to a nuisance, there's tennis courts that are lit. They're legally placed.
Right.
That's coming to a nuisance. Having a swimming pool is, and you have a house that's next door, but the swimming pool has been permitted. That's coming to a nuisance. And all of these are legal. At this point, this is not an approved structure.
Well,
so does anybody else have any questions of the applicant? Okay. So
You guys can be
you
seated.
You can have a seat if you like, please.
What if we put vegetation, if they surrounded it to where it was not able to be seen?
Okay. So what I'd like to do is I would like to make my motion, and then I have a variety of stipulations, and then if you need any questions after that, I'd be glad to answer them. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve V134 with the following stipulations: that the coop is to be moved 25 feet adjacent to the northern property line and from all property lines within 60 days. Since the coop will be seen by I guess, people to the back and people to the side, away from where it's located now, away from the northern property line, that the coop be, what's the word? That the coop be landscaped so that it won't be so impactful, so you could put some bushes around it so it's not so visible to people walking along the connection road to the lake, and then the people from the back, since it's now open because the new development is a new house is going in, so that won't be visible from them. So you can landscape around that to soften the look of the coop. And the maximum ratio, according to Cobb County, is that it's 1 chicken per 5,000 square feet. The property is 38,338 square feet, which allows for 7 chickens. So when 1 chicken passes, the applicant is to apply for a new chicken application for 7 chickens. When the application is then received by Cobb County Code enforcement is to go to the property to verify the number of chickens on the property before approval of the application. Number 4 is to allow a 2-story detached garage, 1,300 square feet, from 100 feet of the left side of the property to 5 feet. This is existing. Number 5, as with all detached garages, there will be no living or businesses in the second story. It's for utility use only. And number 6, remove floodlight on the corner of the garage. All light on this detached garage will be low level, pointed away from neighboring dwellings. So with that, do I have any questions or?
Yes, Madam Chairman, if I might, just one clarification that you're just requiring that the shed be 25 feet off. It doesn't have to be moved an additional 25 feet, just a total. It's currently 7 feet off, just a total of 25 feet off the boundary after it's moved, correct?
That's correct, just
Yeah,
to
thank you.
meet the code.
Do you need to have a date, time?
I had said within 60 days to move that.
I was reading, sorry.
It's okay.
I second that motion.
Place your votes, please. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Mr. Peterson?
Okay. Moving into the regular agenda now. First case we're going to hear is variance case V1. Stephen Carl Hanger requests a variance to allow an accessory structure, which is an 80 square foot shed, to be located in front of the principal building in land lot 128 of the First District. The property is located on the southwest corner of Shalford Road and Mount Laurel Street. The applicant is present, and earlier there's one person here opposed. All those who wish to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Good afternoon.
Just state your name.
My name is Stephen Carl Hanger.
And I'm Terry Hanger.
We understand the nature of the issue is being visibility. That has been addressed by the board to shield it from view from Shalford Road, the main road. And we accept that. That's definitely our
We're
plan
going
to
to
begin
pipe
with.
naked.
Let me talk finished. If the visibility to a neighbor, like Mr. Tice, I believe is probably objecting, perhaps would be agreeable to make sure that's shielded as well on the side of the shed. But that's, the shed itself could not be placed anywhere else that would not be, he suggested that it be addition to the garage, which would be behind the building, but there's a water line there now. And the shed has to have 10 feet around it, free. You can't put it next to another structure.
It's an 8 by 10.
Yeah, just 8 by 10 shed. And that's my objective, was to make sure it was not on any easement. To be frank, I was not aware of the code that it couldn't be, that it had to be behind the house when I put it. But when I thought about it after that, I thought, well, I can't put it behind the house. There's a lake there that would be, it would obscure the view of the lake. And Mr. Tice said, yeah, you can't do it, can't put it there. But his suggestion was to put it as an extension to the garage, but that won't work.
I don't know what more to add to that, other than I had spoke to somebody here, and we are going to Pike Nurseries, and we are going to get the plantings and everything. Right now, all our pipes broke, so we're also doing all the inside of the garage too.
Okay. You can have a seat now, and then the person in opposition can come forward, please. And then we'll call you back for any more questions.
Yeah, I don't like to complain about anything, but this is right in front of the house. I own the property next door and one to that where I live. And it's out where Cobb County doesn't require it. And as I told him, if he wanted to add on to his garage, he could add on to the,
I'm sorry, can you state your name? And
oh,
then
Chuck
also-
Tice.
And then as you see on the map, where do you live?
I can't really see, I can't see it from, it's all blurry. I own the lot to the right and the next one to that. I live 2 doors down, but I own another house next to them.
So you own them directly across Mountain Laurel Street?
No, right
Okay.
on Shalford.
Oh, you,
to the right of
next
them.
right next to them?
Yes,
That's where you live?
yes,
And then you own another house?
right next to that. I live in the one 2 doors down from them, and I own the
Oh, I
one
see.
next to them.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Keep going.
I
Sorry.
built back in '84, I think I built the house. And I told him he could put it on the right side of his garage. I wouldn't mind if I had to let him get a little bit closer to my lot line, as long as he built it to match his house, just like a 3rd-car garage, but only like 8 foot wide by 10 foot long. True, there might be a water line underneath it, but that's easy to move. I wouldn't mind giving him an easement. What is your 7-foot setback there on the side, or 10 right now for that lot?
Mr. Peterson, is the side setback for this lot in R20, is it 12 feet,
It's 10 feet.
10 feet?
Yeah, so they would need to cross it. I don't even know if they need to cross it, the building line. So there is room to do it there, but I stipulate it has to match the house. It's just appearance, it's a shed in front of your front yard. I mean, I don't think you'd want your neighbor to have one in your front yard next to you. That's all I got to say.
So when I went out to see the property, that this was where this was located in the front, they cannot put anything in the back. There's a stormwater sewage easement, and there's no one here from stormwater that could discuss this further. But that goes directly across the back, and I believe if we look at where the easement is, it goes right over the top of their patio in the back. So I know that one lady that I talked to before the hearing, because you can't put a structure in the easement, was fine with having it to the front of the house if it is completely landscaped with trees and shrubs on all sides, except the one that would be facing him, so he can get his lawnmower out. So
And why can't you put it to the side of his garage?
to the side,
If you attach it
closer
to the
to
house?
your house?
Yes.
How can we, Mr. Peterson, how can we measure what that,
Have we closed the public hearing yet? Is he still making his presentation?
oh, I
Yes.
guess,
We need to close.
yeah, so you'll need to close the public
Yes.
hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. So do you have anything else you'd like to say before we're going to ask you to sit down, then we'll be able to discuss it as a board?
No, that's it.
Okay, all right, please take a seat, and we'll close the public
Thank you.
hearing. Thank you for the prompt, Mr. Peterson.
So, Mr. Peterson, the person that's in opposition wouldn't have a problem putting it to the side of his house? If you put it to the side of his house as an addition to the garage, do we know how many feet that is? Is that right at 10 feet?
The plat in the variance book is showing a 10-foot side setback adjacent to that property line. So I'm not sure if they could do a full 3rd-car garage addition without a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Yeah, there's the dotted line, I think, showing the 10 feet.
Okay. Could I have Mr. and Mrs. Hanger come up, please, again?
It's really like it's the side of the house that goes down the
So, located at the side of your garage, what,
Well, there's a hill there. That would mean we'd have to get cement and put that up. Where it's at now, we pulled the it's just got a lawnmower in it. It's got a riding lawnmower in it. We go right across the cement we already have and pull it out.
so then along the side of the garage, there's a slope that goes down the property? And then we discussed that you would meet with the county arborist and discuss the trees that you would plant that would cover all three sides.
We wanted to do that anyways.
Right, I would agree to all
So
three
that,
sides, yeah.
so that the neighboring property wouldn't be able to see it, people from Shallowford Road wouldn't be able to see it, and people from Mountain Laurel Street wouldn't be able to see it. And you're in
From the
agreement with
neighbors.
that? And to meet with the county arborist to discuss the types of trees and shrubs that will grow.
I'm sure there can be some.
And then did you have any issues with maintaining these trees? And if
No.
any of them
We can
die,
even hire-
you replace them?
We're going to hire that done.
Maintenance, yeah.
And
It would
because
be-
they're going to have to plant them. I can't get down in that rock
Right,
garden.
we have it professionally done. I mean,
Yeah.
we're willing to.
And this is for your equipment and your riding lawnmower. Is there a reason why you can't have this placed in your garage?
But
Two-car
two-car garage,
garage.
it will not fit in, but there's 2 cars in there.
Okay.
Right.
Does anyone have any questions for them? Okay.
Yes, thank you. Can I get the contour map showing the elevations? Can we get that?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is showing from the back, if I'm reading this right, this is showing that things are relatively level at about 935 feet at the corner of the,
No, actually, on that left side, there's a big,
Yeah, you can see the contours there.
yeah, the contours. It's really deep.
well, this seems to show that you have 10 feet there with a elevation change of maybe 1 foot.
Well, that's in the backyard. That's not in the front.
Well, keep in mind, yeah, well, that would be a side yard. But keep in mind, too, that the shed that we have requires surrounding space, free space, too. Now, if you're going to have us just disregard the shed, we spent,
5,000 for the shed and 5,000 for
Yeah.
all the
right,
yard work to raise that up.
we don't want to,
But the point is, I had my water line put right there next
yeah,
to
the
the
water line would have
garage.
to be moved, and that's, to me, doesn't seem really feasible.
To move a water line? How-
Yeah, there's a water line.
You
now.
Well,
tell
if
me
we
this
had
is-
to build it up
To
to
the-
put
This
the
is what,
shed on it,
this is
the
like
water
what
line
a
be
5
10
foot
feet
wide
deep.
water pipe or a 1 or 2 inch wide water
Water
pipe?
main.
Which one?
Our water main now.
A what?
See, it used to
Off
come
of
in
Shallowford.
off of the other
It used to
road.
come off of, when they built the house, they were assuming that Mountain Laurel Street would be the place for the, I'm sorry, yeah, and so they actually, they made it all the way around Fisher's Fence in order to get it into our
Come
left
around
side.
our
The left
whole
side of the house is where the input is. The input to the water is on the left side where we're showing the contours there. And so it was breaking all the time, the pipes. And so we had it changed to come off of Shallowford Road directly, directly into that left side of the house. So that's been done, how many years ago?
Years ago, but the point is, we've never had a
So
water
we never had any
breakage
problem,
since
no
then.
breakage of the.
I've spent over
yeah.
$4,000 getting that water line that was around the house, it just kept breaking all the
Yeah,
time.
kept breaking all the time. It's curved
And
around.
I had to hire out how many people, and finally they just said, move your line.
Okay, so is there a dedicated easement in favor of someone for this water line, or is this is just your water line?
It's my water line.
There's not an easement at all, so it can be relocated if needed. Okay. That's all. Thank you.
The other thing that I would like to say is that if you go down Mountain Laurel, oh, you can sit down. And if I have questions, I'll bring you back up. I'm sorry. The other thing that I would like to address to the board is if you go further down the road on Mountain Laurel, the other house across from the lake, it has a structure that sits right in front of their house on their driveway. So, and that isn't at all screened from anybody from the lake, from the street, from across the street, and from the side. So it seems to have, that's.
Which lot are you talking about? The one to the right of the lot?
If you're going, so you're going from Shallowford Road, you go down Mountain Laurel, and I believe it's like the second one down. I lost my camera picture for that, but, so there is a little bit of a precedent for these homes that are on the lake with no place to put it because of the easements, and this clearly has a sanitary sewer easement along the back. I know the lady that I discussed that was in opposition, that was here today, was hoping they could put it to the back, but that would be in the easement. Sanitary sewer easement is here along the back.
Oh, the back being near the lake.
Right, the back being near the lake. So, does anyone have any questions of anybody? Okay. So I would like to make my motion that we approve V1 with the comments that they will be given, and I don't have that written down, how many days. Mr. Peterson, can you help me with that?
From the consent agenda?
From the consent agenda,
Okay.
it was to plant trees and shrubs along Shallowford Road and Mountain Laurel.
Yes, stipulation number one was plant trees and shrubs within 180 days along Shallowford Road and Mountain Laurel to visually screen the shed from the streets. Number two, county arborist to determine the size, variety, and location of the trees and shrubs. And number three, all planted material to be maintained and replaced if it dies.
So on the county arborist to approve, so they will be required to meet with the county arborist to discuss the trees and what would grow to cover the height of the trees. That's what we discussed with them, so that was in that one. So that's my motion. Any questions, issues?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Would you place your votes, please? The motion passes 4 positive and 1 against. Thank you. Mr. Peterson, back to you.
Okay, next item is variance case V6. Stephen A. O'Neill requests a variance to number one, reduce the front setback from required 45 feet to 43 feet, which is existing. And number two, reduce the rear setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for a proposed 196 square foot pavilion, required 40 feet to 8 feet in land lot 277 of the 19th district. The property is located on the western side of Uncle Ben Drive, north of Cook Road, and on the east side of McPherson Drive. Is the applicant present? The director of the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V6? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
Good afternoon. State your name and.
Stephen O'Neill,
Larry O'Neill.
and we're here today regarding the poolside variance that we're, poolside pavilion, and we're looking for a variance for that. We recently had a survey done for the variance, and we have kind of an awkward situation with our lot, as you can see on the visual. Our property line goes back to the back of our property, and then it immediately comes over about 12, almost 13 feet, as you can see, where that yellow line is approaching our pool. And then it goes straight back. Originally, I don't think you can see it, but there's a fence for the property on North Cook, that since there's a new property line now, they're planning to move that fence over. We've talked to our neighbors adjacent to us, and they have agreed for a variance. They signed off on the consent, especially the one on the North Cook Road. Once we explained to them what we were trying to do, kind of gave them some pictures and things of what we were trying to accomplish. That picture is kind of an older picture, I think, because there's some trees there that are no longer there toward the back of the pool, back of that yellow line. And that poolside pavilion also will help create a little bit of privacy there because we're planning on putting a backing on it. Not sure if it's going to be bamboo blinds or something like that, but some kind of a backing on it. So, you know, we can't just look off the back of it and see our neighbors, and they just can't look onto it to see us. It's 14 by 14. That's the structure for it. Other than the backing that may be on it, there's no walls or anything like that. It's just a shelter. That way, when we come out of the pool, we'll have a place to go. But subject to your questions, that's about all I have.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So let me just try to get a handle on how we got here. Do you know if any variance was ever obtained for the pool in the first instance when it was built?
Not to my knowledge. The pool meets the 12-foot setback or whatever it is for that.
Well, it was all in our documents. We're not the original owners, so the pool was already built whenever we moved in, but there was a building permit obtained for the pool, so we assume there was a variance obtained for it.
Okay, and you just advised me that one of these fences that's shown on here is going to move. It's interesting to me that none of the fences seem to run the property lines, right?
Yes. That wooden fence, you can kind of see a wooden fence there.
Yes?
That was existing when we moved in.
Okay.
And so when we started building, that neighbor, she was planning to sell her house. And so in doing so, she had to get, she obtained a survey. So all three of us ended up wondering about our property lines. We ended up getting the survey done, so all three of us would know where our official survey was. That fence line is gonna come in about, 10 feet?
Yeah, about 12.
10 to 12 feet, a little bit in that corner on our property. So none of us know how that happened because none of us are the original owners. So that was all done from the people who lived there prior to all three of us. But we now know what the actual property lines are.
So hopefully those property lines that you agree to are not the same as the yellow lines currently being
Oh,
shown.
no, right, no. It looks nothing like that. No. No, it looks like our pool is sitting in her yard. No.
Okay, and is this your new survey that you filed with us here by Solar?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we'll go by that. And then I just noted that in the application, where the folks would hopefully sign, it seemed like, if I recall correctly, this was the one where the, we didn't have, I didn't see anything where the impacted neighbor had signed off.
Yes, both neighbors have signed off.
Okay, do you have that with you at all?
We turned it in.
Yeah. I mean, I have a copy that I made of it.
You have a copy of it with you?
I mean, I turned the original in, but I made a copy before I turned the original in.
Do you still have that with you?
I do.
Yeah, if we could just see that, that would be fine.
Everybody about the house is just been over and everybody's lives. You just give Cornelius.
We've also added landscaping. We've planted palm trees. We've redone our landscaping to shield, to give our neighbor behind us more privacy as well. So both of us have more privacy. That's the intention.
All right. And can you just point out again, if we go back to the maps, where the Loveladies live currently?
They're the house, the driveway right beside us, there.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. And then the McMinns are to the rear?
She's on right there, on the other side of that fence.
Okay, well, those would be the affected neighbors, and it appears they're in consent. Okay, unless any of my fellow board members has a question for you, I'll just have a question of staff on this one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll close this portion of the hearing.
Okay, so my question of staff is, it says that if this variance is approved, a subdivision plat revision must be recorded prior to the issuance of a building permit. Do we require that all the time on when there's a platted subdivision? Is that a standard thing?
Well, when that comment comes in for variances, I normally don't make that part of the record because, you know, the approval of the variance is the record when they look in the zoning minutes and on the GIS map.
Okay. All right. So what is your preference? What shall I say in terms of staff comments?
Let's see here.
Just none?
I'm taking a look right now. No conditions.
Okay. All right. So, Madam Chair, my request is that we approve this variance request without any conditions.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please place your votes. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. All right. I feel like I'm playing tennis with you today.
Okay. Next case is variance case V11. Janice Fung and John Stockdale request a variance to reduce the setbacks for an accessory use over 650 square feet for a proposed 3,168 square foot sand volleyball court from required 100 feet to 0 feet adjacent to the northern property line, 9 feet adjacent to the western property line, and 35 feet adjacent to the eastern property line in land lot 1186 of the 16th district. Property is located on the north side of Lakeshore Way, east of Dickerson Road. Is the applicant present? The director of the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V11?
Yes, we have three.
Three? Okay, let the record show there's 3 people here opposed. All those who wish to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Good afternoon. Just state your name and tell us about your case.
Sure. I'm Janice Fung, and my husband and I are the owners of 4142 Lakeshore Way. So to start, I mean, I have a little bit of a backstory, but my husband and I are both volleyball enthusiasts, and we're proud parents to 2 active young children and 2 rescue dogs. And so 3.5 years ago, before we bought our home, we did ask the HOA president at the time if there were any neighborhood bylaws that would prevent us from putting in a sand court, and there were none, which is great because during COVID, our backyard needed constant weed management, and after several cases of poison ivy, we seriously began to think about the feasibility of a sand court. And what we like about sand is that it's pervious, it's low maintenance, it doesn't require watering like a lawn, it's pesticide-free, it's low impact, and it can be enjoyed by the whole family. Not to mention, we are surrounded by a young, active community of families that have supported us and would enjoy playing with us as well. So with that, I began the process in October of 2021 by calling Cobb County Building and Development, speaking with the arborist, describing our project, wondering if we needed a permit for tree removal, which he said no restrictions on the property, no permit needed. So with that, I wrote to site plan review with a screenshot of the topography, asking if a court was a structure, if we needed to submit a site plan, and if we needed to apply for an LDP, or if there's anything I was missing, because I wasn't sure. He emailed and said that a sand volleyball court is considered a landscape feature, which Cobb County does not regulate, no permit required. However, a contractor must use BMPs for erosion control during construction, which makes sense because sand is pervious, unlike a basketball or a tennis court or a pool structure. So we removed the trees inside the 6-foot privacy fence. We planted evergreens and fast-growing shrubs along the property line, or along the fence line for more screening, and we called grading contractors for quotes. Another year passed, we broke ground and were told that the grading the amount of grading would require an LDP. So we stopped work, submitted our site plan, and after review, learned that a sand volleyball court was accessory use, which is greater than 650 square feet and should be located 100 feet from all property lines unless a variance is granted. So then we revised our plans so that it would be grading to a flat lawn, just to start, while the variance was in process. I did meet with Carl and Stormwater to discuss the plans and concluded that the sand with court drainage and a wood edging would not obstruct the flow of stormwater, after which we received our initial LDP. So what we'd like to do is change a 44 by 72 foot rectangular area within the fence that will remain from grass to sand, install drainage in and around the court, add a filter fabric to prevent sand from filtering through, and then contain the sand with a wooden edge, all of which is permeable to allow stormwater to flow and drain to the easement adjacent to our property. Outside the court, we'd like to plant plantings, fruit trees, a vegetable garden, grass, and more evergreens for, just to green up the area in contrast with the sand court. For safety, the net would be removable so the kids could have free play of the backyard, and the posts would be wood rather than metal, just to be consistent with the materials in the back. When we do play, it is for our personal use, for our family and maybe 4 to 6 friends to play on the weekends. And when the court is not in use, we plan to cover it with a permeable tarp so that water can drain through, but also keep contaminants out. So I realize this is an unusual variance request. We did get sign-off from our adjacent neighbors. One of our neighbors was a little bit funny about it, but he was totally in support of the project. And our rear neighbor, it's a large woodlands property that's owned by a trust, which we've tried to, we've driven up to their door, knocked, and tried to talk to them, but we haven't. But they're, we can't even see their house. The size of the court is actually not a regulation size, so it's not permissible. I mean, it wouldn't allow league play or court lighting. It's oriented north-south just for best playing, so the sun isn't shining directly into your eyes, and it allows for better circulation around the court. So in the end, yeah, my husband and I just love to play. We've been playing for 20 years, and we still play. And we just like to have a safe, usable backyard for our family, our friends, neighbors, etc. And I do have pictures if that would help visualize what this might look like finished. If I give it to you. You can kind of run through it too. Oh, it's a little small. So that's what it was before. Oh. So this is, before we started grading. This is what it is now to get it to flat line. And hopefully it'll just be kind of clean, a clean court with green space. And that's it. And that's our plan. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
And also, please be seated so we can hear. Thank you. Good afternoon. State your name.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Chris Lindstrom, representing the East Cobb Civic Association.
I'm going to, excuse me, could you
for
speak up a
V11.
little bit?
Yes, how about that? This is a constant with me, I'm sorry. My name is Chris Lindstrom, representing the East Cobb Civic Association for V11. Per ECCA's written recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals, ECCA has two concerns with the applicant's petition. One, while Kings Cove HOA has no objection to the petition, not all the contiguous neighbors have signed off on the petition. And two, ECCA cannot find any hardship due to the shape or the topography of the land for granting the petition. So ECCA recommends denial of the variance as there is no hardship that we're aware of that would justify the petition. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We will now close the public hearing.
So you all saw the pictures and all of that. I was out at the site. I've looked at what they're proposing. I had no idea about having a sand volleyball court in the back of the property, and I think the picture really gives everybody here on the board an idea of what it is they're going to be doing. As far as looking at, I know variances always look at the shape, size, and topography of the property, and if there's any hardships. And as you can see here on this map in front of us, this house is almost located at the time it was built. Setbacks were different. This house is almost located in the middle of the property. So the front setback is approximately, in measuring it, it's like 55 feet, where the current code for R20 is 35 feet. So this has really been moved quite far back from the front. So making the house reduce the backyard, the enjoyment of the backyard. So while I believe that it fits very well with the person coming in and requesting a variance. I talked to her about having everyone sign, especially the house to the side of it, to sign that they're in support of it, that they didn't have any issues. And she said that she had gone to them, they'd spoken to them about what it is that they would like to do, and they're fine with it. They just didn't want to sign any document. The house behind, so when I was driving this, I went to go locate the house behind where she can't get the signature. There is quite, as you can see.
Yes, clearly obstruction.
There's the house behind it. So I don't think that it's going to impact them at all.
Yeah.
So if anybody, does anyone have any questions or want to bring the applicant up?
No.
Okay. So with that, I would like to make my motion to approve V11 with the following stipulations. So number one, to include all staff comments. And number two, no competitive team play. This will be for personal use only. 3, evergreen screening and shrubs planted is depicted on the site map approved by the Cobb County arborist, and we saw that site map. Number 4, existing or new fence around property to remain. Number 5, the membrane used for the filtration between the dirt and the sand be approved by stormwater. And 6, the permeable tarp used to cover the court when it's not being used to be approved by stormwater as well. So she's already talked to our stormwater manager about the types of things that she could use, but I still would like for that approval process as she goes forward. So that is my motion.
Does anybody have any questions?
Just a quick question about the motion. I like where you're going with this, but is there any restriction whatsoever on lighting or the hours of operation?
Well, there's no illumination of the court. So with that, whatever time it gets dark, then you can't play because there won't be any court lighting.
Okay, so that's an express restriction as well?
I could add that in if that is what you would
Yes.
like for it to be.
I think that would be great because that would minimize any possible adverse impact on the two adjoining neighbors.
So then the wording with number 1, no illumination of the court, what would you like for that to stay? At dusk? Dark?
That's fine. No illumination's fine, or either that or some hours on restriction of usage so that either way, so the neighbors aren't impacted.
I think if there's no illumination of the court, then we won't have to get the police involved with coming in to tell them they can't play, and the hours are going to change based upon the time of day. So I think just the statement of illumination of court is going to dictate no play at night.
Yeah.
Yes. Is that okay?
Yes.
Any questions from anyone else? We ready to?
Is that clear to the clerk?
I'll go ahead and second with that condition.
Okay. Everyone place your vote, please. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next item. Variance case V13, My Pool Builders, request a variance to increase the maximum allowable impervious surface from 38.4% per approved variance V67 of 2022 to 41.8% in land lot 256 of the 20th District. The property is located on the south side of Waterhouse Street, west of Morningwood Lane. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V13? No. Let the record show there's no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
Good afternoon. State your name.
My name is Ken Rita with My Pool Builders.
Okay. Already? Mr. Do you have any tell us what you're trying to build?
Yes, ma'am. We're doing a swimming pool, 18 by 36 swimming pool with 215 square feet of pavers around it.
Fred, do you have any questions? Do you have any other information you want to share?
We had filed a variance before, but inadvertently, the pool decking was left off of it. That was approved. We got it approved back and looked at it and realized that that 215 square feet was not included. So we had to reapply for this variance. And actually, it showed 41 point something percent. It actually should be 39.8%.
Thank you for that clarification. All right. Thank you. You can take a seat, and if you have more questions, we'll
no.
call. You got, okay, we'll close the public hearing, so you can ask your questions, Fred.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Reedy, I just note here that in this application, the only folks who signed off on it were what appear to be your clients, Christopher Wright and Tammy Wright. Have you ever, you said there was a prior variance obtained. In the course of obtaining that prior variance, was there a sign off for the pool by the neighbors, do you know?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. You think you can go ahead and get with the Wrights and get that done by the neighbors, just so we're in good shape there? Or you're saying the only purpose for this variance is just simply to deal with the impervious issue?
Correct. That's it.
Okay. And you said you previously obtained all of the variances you need then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. That's fine. And Stormwater's not here today, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you do understand you'll be required still to mitigate back in some manner? Have you discussed that with the folks of the county yet?
Yes, sir. We've been in touch with, I believe it was Carl Carver.
All right. Very good. Okay. That's all I have. Madam Chair, if anyone else has questions for the applicant.
I just have a quick question. When did you get the variance for the pool?
Oh, the previous variance was for impervious surface again.
When was that?
But I believe it was back in April, or it was several months, middle of last year or towards the end of last year. I forget the date. And that was just for the existing impervious surfaces, and that's where we didn't realize that the 215 square feet that it was not included.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. We good?
You can have a seat.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Peterson, do I understand this correctly, that the only purpose for this variance request is to approve the increased impervious area? Is that the sole purpose?
That's correct, and that would be 215 square feet of pool decking.
Okay. And if I understand, if I do so subject to stormwater management comments, then mitigation will be required back to 35% per our common.
Yes, and Carl Carver has some pretty detailed comments that none of this can be in the floodplain, and they have to mitigate back to 35%.
Okay, but just by saying stormwater comments, that I'll be fine in that regard?
Yep.
Okay, so Madam Chair, my motion is that we approve this request for a variance subject to all stormwater management comments.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, place your votes, please. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. That concludes our hearing. We do have some more housekeeping items to go over. Let's do the quick things first. Have you all had time? Have you had time to review the minutes from both the work session on the 9th of January and the meeting on the 14th of December, 22? All right. Do we have a motion for approval?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from January 9th, 2023 and December 14th of 2022 as read.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Everyone vote, please. Okay, minutes are approved for both meetings, 5-0. Now we have one more matter to take care of. This is at the first of every year. We need to decide, we need to reconfirm or make changes to the chair and the vice chair. So I would entertain motions to that effect.
I would like to make a motion
Yes.
that we retain Barclay Russell as chairwoman and Deidre Willis as vice chair for 2023.
Okay, all in favor?
Well, are they in favor?
Yeah. Passes 5-0. Asking that before the now would be better. Right. Is there anything else we need to handle, Mr. Peterson, Mr. Johnson? All right. A motion for agenda, to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn for the day.
Do I have a